Smart Coat. In this video, we're going to highlight one of our sealers we don't talk about as often as we should, Smart Coat. First, we're going to take this piece of copper and M24 it up, so we'll get this nice kind of antique black finish. And you can see this is going to be more of a horizontal, so I like to take some Scotch-Brite pad and kind of rub it around on the surface. You've seen this in other videos, but it's really nice to do on a vertical surface when you're not using the gels. It will help eliminate some of those runs. I also find it helps if you start with the bottom of it and then work your way up, and then that way if you get the bottom going and then it runs from the top down, obviously because of gravity, then it will kind of sort itself out and hide a lot of those marks. So you can see here I'm just trying to get some highlights by burnishing off the top ends and put a little extra back on because I want the ridges to be nice and deep. But overall, a Scotch-Brite pad is definitely your friend when you work on vertical surfaces. Another easy tip when you're working on vertical surfaces is just to apply it through a Scotch-Brite pad, and then you can kind of burnish it on and off as needed. And here I'm going to focus more on this kind of decorative piece in the center, and that way I can kind of get some highlights on the top but make sure that we hit the inside and the low points of it as well. So I didn't want to work too much on the highlights, but I did want to offer some. And so just doing that will really help kind of pull it out. You can do it with steel wool afterwards, but I always find that you can get a better kind of gradation and kind of highs and lows, more natural looking, if you will, if you just use the Scotch-Brite pad with the material on the surface. So if you're working with M38 or M24, if you burnish it into it, then it seems to work out a little bit better in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to leave this just as a black finish. I'm using this as a base finish. And once again, this is going to be a Smart Coat video, but right now we're going to patina and do some fancy stuff because it's always nice to show off with a patina while we're at it rather than just talk about a clear coat. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But here I'm going to heat the metal up, and this is wet just from rinsing that M24 off. And you can see all that moisture kind of getting off the surface there. But we need to get the metal about 180 to 200 degrees for this cupric nitrate to work. And cupric nitrate is one of my favorite green patinas to work with because you can do it as a hot application, so it happens real nice and fast. But you can see not a lot happens. You can see a little bit of it come off while we put it on the heat again, and I've talked about this in other videos before, but with the cupric nitrate, work slow. So heat the metal up, put a little on, heat it up again, see what kind of colors develop. It's really one that kind of develops as you apply the heat. Now this is pretty thin copper, so it's not taking a whole lot of heat. You can see on that right side where it's getting a little overheated, but it'll be okay overall. Generally, I just kind of want this to age up and give a little bit of class to it. I don't want it to look so much as new or just blackened copper. I want to give that feeling like it's been out in the weather for a little while and it's starting to green out. And so that's what I'm going for, is a very mottled green with a nice black background. So just trying to reheat after I reapply to try and keep that temperature about that 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's really where the patina can excel. So you can see that right side that got overheated a little bit. We'll put a little extra patina over it, and for the most part it's just going to blend right into that mottled effect. And there's a lot of little tricks you can do, and you can see I burnished kind of that center part of it off, and now the green's going on, and you really don't notice it quite as much, but you can come back in if you want it to look like it's been used a lot, if it's been rubbed a lot, and come back in after you've done all that green and do highlights again. Same thing with the bottom edges, or if you just want to go up the ridge line there. There's a lot of tips and tricks you can do. For the most part, I'm just going to kind of let the green tell the story. And one of the things I really like about cupric is it really gives us nice vibrant green, but it also will range and give us this kind of foresty green. So it kind of gives us the two different looks we can get with light green and Tiffany green. And that's why I enjoy this one so much. So enough about the patinas, let's talk about the Smart Coat. Now Smart Coat is our one-part water-based clear coat, or our sealer. Kind of interchangeable words there. Now, the reason why you would use Smart Coat instead of, say, ClearGuard or Everclear, Smart Coat, once again, water-based, no VOC, but it doesn't come with that smell that the solvent-based materials work with. So while Everclear and ClearGuard are zero VOC as well, they are solvent based. So if you work with those, you'll have a solvent smell. And so when working indoors, that could potentially be something that you need to think about. The Smart Coat also has an auto leveler on it. So if you're working on something that you need it, if you've got to roll it on or brush it on, the Smart Coat works pretty well. You do need to keep in mind that the hotter and drier the climate is, the faster it will dry. So if you have the time where Smart Coat can work, it will auto level itself. I always like to spray it on, as I do with the ClearGuard and the Everclear, because I feel like I can just get a much better looking spray out of it rather than if I try and brush or roll it on. So spraying is still my preferred way to put it on, but you can brush or roll it. So that's how I'm going to apply it here. I'm going to use a touch-up gun from Harbor Freight, and you can use the big HVLP, but it tends to leak a little bit more, so definitely use your Teflon like you do with the Smart Stains. But I just spray it out nice and thin coats. It's about 30 pounds of pressure or so on here, and two good kind of medium wet coats. You want to see it soak in. So you can see here on the camera, it kind of shows you some of the wet areas. The thicker the green areas are for the patina, the more it will kind of soak in. So you want to make sure you feed that a little bit more. But overall, two good coats and this thing's solid. The durability is about the same as ClearGuard, so that's a nice touch to add on that. So overall, the Smart Coat is a great choice. You will notice that the patina, like the green here, will darken at first. Once it dries out, you'll see that some will come back, but that's pretty typical for clear coats over green and blue patinas really, is that it will darken a little bit. So here we have our final piece with the M24 and cupric nitrate and then the Smart Coat Matte. Smart Coat comes in matte and satin. You can also mix it to get your exact blend that you would prefer. The Birchwood M24, the traditional cupric nitrate, and Smart Coat are all available at www.sculptnouveau.com.